Suffering. Many people ask, why do I have to suffer in this world? Why would God make a world where there is suffering in it? And evil can prevail if it's all good, and of course, if it comes from God, and He's all good. Well, the simple answer is that He did make a world without suffering. It was called the Garden of Eden. And the world has only become more and more corrupted because of the free will that He gave to man. And there are constant struggles between God choosing a prophet or a group of people to do what He wants, and more than half the time they disobey Him or immediately go against His wishes. And it's been a constant exchange of struggles and ideas until the final covenant that was established with Jesus Christ was the new covenant, which made everything else obsolete. So people still ask though, if I'm going through a hard time, why is God punishing me? Why is God testing me? Maybe God doesn't exist. And maybe this is actually, an evil spirit or the devil that's actually tormenting me. How do you know? We have to remember that God created everything in the universe, which includes Satan, who eventually falls from heaven. There's also a part in the book of Kings where God sends an evil spirit after King Saul, after Saul refuses to follow his orders and commandments. There are also instances of sending evil spirits to force prophets to lie to the king or to other people of the court. So to say that God can't imagine evil or doesn't do evil also, I think, is not true. A lot of the times in the Old Testament, when the Israelites don't follow God's commandments, He doesn't exactly punish them directly, but He will remove barriers of protection that allow the Assyrians and the Hittites to invade and have more success in battle than they would. So how do we relate all this to modern day and to a personal level? Sometimes we have to suffer because we've done something bad. Sometimes we have to suffer because sometimes we are suffering because we need to learn something. Humans are very stubborn creatures, and sometimes the only way we change our habits is through pain or suffering. And the expression, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, is true depending on how you look at it. If you have a fear of something bad happening in the future, you can't have that same fear if that thing has already happened to you in the past. If you've already fallen off your bike and scraped your knee, you know what that feels like, and it's not the end of the world. And if you're going through something like a divorce, or maybe a fatal or semi-fatal accident where you've lost something or someone, most people are able to live through it. And by living through it, you gain the knowledge and the pain of that suffering. And maybe that was done because to balance the sin and the iniquity in your life, or maybe it was done to also teach you something, that a lot of these people who grow up with malformed bodies or deformities often become public speakers because their whole thing is that I didn't let it get to me. I still had a successful life and sometimes even families and a career. And that loops into the idea of hope and of the ability of the human spirit to overcome any obstacle. And that's one of the core tenets of Christianity. It's not only faith, but it's also hope and overcoming death. I feel like some people think Christianity is this comfort pillow that it's supposed to absolve all pain and suffering in the world. It's more so a means to work through pain, and it's a tool to interpret pain and work through it, and to see the hope on the other side so you don't give up halfway and then it was possibly all for nothing. There may not be a reason for your suffering right now, and people tend to only remember the bad things that have happened to them, and they project those fears into the future. But people also forget all of the good things, all the unexpected positive things that happened, all the people they met by happenstance, all the things that happened by happenstance, and the possibility for those things to continue happening in the future. Maybe the source of your suffering is just an instruction for someone else not to lose hope. It reminds me of a story about the original writer for Fight Club, who found himself in a cancer support group when he didn't actually have cancer and he was just out of college. And so he thought, oh, my life is crappy, my life sucks. But then he went here and he actually found a new source of life, because you have a group of people dealing with the fact that they are going to die. And so as bad as you think you have it, he realized that it's actually pretty good for him. And he started to live more actively, more vibrantly. At the end of the day, the reason for our suffering is never going to be revealed obviously to us. But it does make us stronger. And it does give us something that is wholly unique to us. Each person's suffering is one of their most defining factors. No one shares the same kind of suffering, and it's as individualistic as your lived experience. Which is why one of the worst things you can say to someone when they're going through a tough time is to say, well, so-and-so is actually going through an even worse time. Or these people in this country over here, something awful happened to them. And they don't even have the same opportunities that you do, so you shouldn't complain. Everyone's pain is as valid as everyone's life. We are defined by our pain. I think I'll close this video with a quote that I read recently that really stuck with me. As light shines in the darkness, so too does the human spirit shine in despair. It's funny. You think about the times you go to a movie or you watch a play. Usually you're not watching a story about someone who has everything perfect and their life is together and everything is going wonderfully for them. Usually it's about conflict and drama and murder and all of the extremes that can exist within humanity. And we do that not only because it's entertaining to watch, but it also gives us clarity and understanding. Like in a Shakespearean play, how does the story end of the man who betrays his best friend? Suffering is the story of our lives. And we define that story ourselves depending on how you deal with that pain. And through Christ, all things are possible. Thank you.